What is up, my cutouts? Cardboard Ninja coming at you with the developers' comments part 2. This is where we, the community, say things and we're not obvious plants, and then the devs respond to their own questions. Just kidding. Just in this case, there were a couple of spurious ones before. I'm certainly sure there's not going to be any odd ones this time around. First things up, someone's like, the punji sticks suck. Oh my god, we need all sorts of crazy changes and things like that. This guy says that he wants it so the speed that you pass through the punji barrier and blah blah blah, it increases damage, and if you touch it, and damages your whole build, not just the parts, and all sorts of crazy shit. Anywho, they say thank you for the suggestions, but we're not doing any of that stuff. They'll try and buff the punji, but they're not going to do any of this stuff. Moving right along, drones. This is the Falcon, Hawk, and Owl. The person complaining says they're not good. So the Falcon, Hawk, and the Owl are the hovering drones, the ones that fly next to your car and shoot automatically. This guy wants them to be invisible. He's like, it'd be great if they just straight up were invisible. And they said, you know what, this is interesting. We'll test it maybe for the Owl and the Hawk, but the Falcon, no. They're not doing it for the Falcon. If I recall correctly, the Hawk and the Owl shoot bullets, whereas the Falcon shoots missiles, and so they're just like, no, that's probably not that good. Also, they probably have some testing data that show the missile drone is probably better than the bullet drones. Moseying right along, weapons stop firing in burst mode immediately, but this is basically when you flag your build. This guy's saying, look, if I'm using the crickets and I flag my build, I fire 2 crickets, it just ceases to fire and just starts over. I think that's bullshit. We would like this to not suck. They mentioned the Devourer because the Devourer is the only weapon in Crossout where if mid-burst you flag your own build or the barrel's blocked or whatever the hell, you have 2 seconds to get back on target to continue the burst. The devs say, look, that was difficult for us to program and only specific weapons designed with that in mind can have it, such as the Devourer. Basically, when they designed the Devourer, they're like, wait a minute, if they flag their build, they're going to stop shooting immediately, which will negate all of the damage of this thing, and this thing has a very long burst time. So that's why they did that for the Devourer. I don't think that they didn't say they wouldn't do it, but they're complaining about how hard it would be, so that means they're not going to do it. So this means that if you're using any weapon that fires multiple shots, make sure that you don't flag your own build. Helicon users. Shields and defenses. They're like, whoa, shields suck for multiple reasons. Buff shields. The devs are saying, no, look, we'll make it so you can tell how close a shield is to breaking. This is probably very similar to like a Reinhardt shield or any other game where you watch the shield go from blue to purple and then from purple to red and then break, right? So they're probably going to do that. But other than that, they're not going to increase the durability of shields. And honestly, shields are in a pretty good spot right now. The Aegis got a huge buff. Remember, every shield got buffed by about, I want to say like 25% durability or so, because of the fact that they halved the bonus damage that they took from Blast. So originally, they took 100 plus 100% damage on Blast and basically got shredded through. So like if you popped an Aegis, when someone's firing retchers at you, your Aegis will immediately just disappear instantaneously and they'll just blast through your face. Now, it's basically the same. Retchers do tons of damage, and the Aegis only has 600 hit points. 300, actually 450 or so against Blast, but you get the idea. But no, I don't think that shields require a buff, though. It'd be cool to see the barriers losing durability. Easy ways to raise build durability. Now, I'm not saying, people are on me saying that last time I was too negative. People are saying, oh no, this is not a plant. Okay, I'm gonna read this, and you decide for yourself. Easy ways to raise build durability is the problem. We have way too many half mesh parts, such as the mounting bracket, the saya, the left and right radiator bonnets, etc. These parts have a lot of good parameters, making them almost essential for any build. They're saying these mass to durability ratios are insane because it's true. Like some of these things have really decent mass to durability ratios, such as the mounting bracket having 90 durability itself. It increases your vehicle's durability by 90, and as is like 99 kilograms. And he's like, it's almost 1-to-1. Mind you. He doesn't bring up the power score of these things in many cases. They're saying the form pack factor, these things are small and easy to use, and they compete with larger examples of structure parts because they're basically everyone uses them, right? So he names a couple of them here. We all know the saya is amazing. We all know that the radiator bonnets are amazing. We know this, right? The thing is this. He doesn't like it. He's saying, as a solution to this problem, because this is a problem, having high durability in your build is a problem. As a solution to this problem, I can suggest reducing the durability of these parts. They give to the cabin by 50%. So they still have themselves, let's say, 100 durability, but they would only add 50 to the cabin. And so on and so forth. Here's the thing. Look, my dude. Oh, by the way, let me get to the answer from the devs. We will consider nerfing these parts. But before we get to that, let's actually look at this. Let's look at this mathematically, right? So almost every build uses, let's say, mounting brackets and radiator bonnets based on their mass to durability ratio, the fact that they're also pass-through, and also the Battle Walker shoulders are pretty good. They don't have the nearly 1-to-1 mass to durability ratio, but the Battle Walker shoulders are also really good. They're close. They have, 50% pass-through, and they have a base durability of 176. So they're basically 300 and something durability parts, which is pretty good, right? So here's the deal. If anybody has played Crossout for any period of time at this point, you know that builds have never been weaker. They've just never been weaker. You know this, I know this. Popping a build ain't hard. Destroying an opponent is not difficult. Damage right now is out of control. It's out of control. You know it's out of control. I know it's out of control. These parts that they're talking about add a potential, I want to say, 1,000 durability to a build. Dang it, you're gonna make me do math, aren't I? Alright, give me a second. I should have come here first. That's 110 times 4, so you're looking at 440. We'll give this 150 times 2, so 440 plus, we'll just say 450 plus, you're about 1,000. Yeah, it's about 1,000. Yeah, it's about 1,000 durability. Yeah, okay. So give or take, it's about 1,000 to 1,200 dura added from all of these half mesh parts. That's nothing. That's not much. That's nothing. You know that's nothing. We put these things on our builds just to be minimally viable at this point. I hate to say it. Having 2k Dura, and that's assuming that your base Dura is 1k and you're adding 1,000 something to it. It's not enough. We're slinging damage downrange at numbers that are unfathomable, right? The Swarm is ripping apart builds instantaneously, destroying all their weapons and also their build and sending them straight to hell instantaneously. The Heather, even though it lacks popularity, can still basically one-bang anyone. People are running around with the Commit with its triple fire ass, being able to blast through builds at extraordinarily high damage. One Commit does the same damage as 2 Mammoths, for shit's sake. That's insane, and Mammoths are actually really good. Avalanche is crapping people's builds in half. Come on now. Builds already, and even the Commit, again, builds already are easily permeable, easily ripped apart, and damage has never been higher. I for one have been predicting that they're going to run a nerf pass across all weapons, reducing all weapons by a specific damage amount soon, because of the fact that everyone lives not long enough. We get popped quick, right? And so this guy's saying, let's have less hit points. I disagree. I don't think that we should be stepping forward and saying that to the devs who are considering nerfing everyone again. That doesn't make any sense. Why would we have less durability on our builds when our builds are already made of paper? We're slinging nukes around paper houses, and they're like, this paper's too durable. Mines and drones and turrets of allies. They're like, hey, look, you hit them the wrong way, you flip, you crash, you get stuck on them, you get screwed. Can we please disable the collision of allies? We've already considered the possibility of dividing collisions into friendly and hostile, but rejected it because it would worsen game optimization. Long story short, it would be smart to allow us to drive through turrets and drones of allies because all they do is fuck your team far more than they fuck the enemy team, but they won't do it. Alright, Maxwell and Doppler. 2 modules, different rarity, unfairly equal energy consumption. They both consume 2, but people choose a Doppler because of this. Give the Maxwell 1 energy. They're not going to do that. Comment, both these modules are popular with their power score ranges. There's no reason to revise their parameters. If the situation changes, we'll consider it. And believe it or not, I actually agree with the devs on this one. The Doppler is phenomenal. I think it's clearly my favorite. It's one of my favorite modules, if not my favorite module. Being able to see all opponents basically on the map at all times is just grand. The Doppler, the Maxwell, is just a weaker Doppler, and it costs the same energy. So what's the problem here? Honestly, there isn't one. If you're using the Maxwell in the correct circumstances, it's just fine. It's great. It's lower power score. It's a lower power score version of the Doppler. And I agree with the devs. I don't think that they need to be different energy costs. I don't think 1 energy to see people through walls is balanced remotely. So, moving right along. Widget wheels and their ability to drive on walls. Widget wheels can drive onto vertical walls, causing the build to stand on its rear, cling to the walls, often causing the build to flip over, all this stuff. Problems caused by the physics interactions between widget wheels and the surface on which they move, which differs from the other wheels. Now they'll figure it out. So they're going to fix that bug, hopefully. Most global balance issues is the durability of all weapons. Due to the constant inflation of damage. Hey, I mentioned that! See? Someone's noticing. By the way, yeah, having your guns shot off by 1 commit bolt sucks. Like, they're just you're just walking along and all of a sudden your gun is gone. You're like, what? Wasn't there a gun on my build? Yeah, no, the damage inflation is the same. And they're saying which significantly outpaces any changes in the game related to defense. True. Even the most durable weapons, such as mastodons, have to be hidden in a so-called slit. Yeah. You don't want those mastos out there. Think of them like huge swinging testicles. You don't want someone to kick those. You don't want somebody to kick those. That would suck. You don't want that. Yeah, no. Everything has to be hidden because you'll get your shit stripped very, very quickly. A meta that's been around for years with weapons placed behind the cabin. Blah, 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 blah. In principle, is to value the importance of weapon durability. Basically, the way that we're building right now, this guy's complaining surprisingly about the way that we're building, where we build our weapons deep in our build, surrounded by the rest of our build, just in order to keep our weapons, because if we don't, we lose our weapons immediately. They're saying that now things are silly because it's equally difficult to destroy weapons regardless of the weapon's durability. And that's true, right? So you could have... we'll just go with Helicons, and they'll be built deep into your build, and there's only going to be a 2-pin gap to hit them anyway. And it's going to be the same with Mastodons. And the funny thing is, even though Helicons have like less than a quarter of the hit points, they still last just about as long. So they're saying, in essence, survivability weapons largely depends on the length of their barrel, since the longer weapon, the more protrudes in the slit, etc. Important note, the problem mentioned above is more relevant to ground builds with low mobility, etc. I'd like to propose several solutions. He goes off. This guy's going off. We'll monitor weapon survival statistics and make adjustments as necessary. This time, we see no reason to change this. Your suggestions have many radical solutions that would create many other balance issues. So this guy went to the trouble of writing a freaking War and Peace ass response saying, here's the problem, all these issues, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, no. No. Low number of points for destroying weapons in battles, already covered. Basically, people are asking for a 1 energy generator, and they're like, no one's going to want that shit. The Assembler. So the Assembler has a debuff on it that as it charges up, the weapon's rotation drops. This is so rarely... This is true, and its effect that is so rare that I forgot that it existed, because it is so unlikely that you will ever, use the Assembler. You're not going to use it. But in addition to that, would that you actually somehow have 2 assemblers that you're actually sniping, you're typically going to be on a hover. And usually all of your weapons are weapon locked to be directly in front of you, so it's just so rare for that to come up that most people probably forgot that this is a thing. So they're like, hey, look, you did it for the kaiju, do it here, make it so that when you charge up the gun, it doesn't nerf the turning angles, and they'll actually consider it. And that's fine. The assembler's dog shit, so I don't see a reason why they shouldn't. Tank tracks, too efficient. They're talking about the specific tank tracks. They're not talking about all tracks, just tank tracks. And they want it buffed because every other tank track, or at least the armored tracks, have blast resistance, whereas the tank tracks don't. And so they're like, okay, we'll look into it. We may give it blast resistance. Mini parts have no perks, and they're like, yeah, we know. We're getting there. We're going to shove some more perks on those. Rebalance these things, but don't... No, wait, sorry. They want the weak, unplayable relics to be rebalanced. But this motherfucker lists, like, every relic. and by the way, the sheer fact that whomsoever listed all these relics did so implies this person is rich as fuck. They're like, Punisher needs buffs, Breaker needs buffs, Jormungandr needs buff, Devour needs buffs, Nemesis needs buff, Helicon needs buff, Porcupine needs buffed. And they're like, hey, look, they need to fix this. And they're like, you know what? We'll consider all your suggestions. Can you believe that? This dude laid out tons of suggestions. He wants the Punisher's perk to not reset on misses, and when the perk is on, increase the projectile speed with the perk. He wants the Breaker and the Hammerfall to reduce their energy cost again because they're just not dangerous enough. Jormungandr, each of the 3 shots should charge the perk and be able to heat up parts and with an energy reduction. He's just like wanting tons of damage. He just wants tons of buffs. Devourer. I don't understand what this guy is saying. He's saying that he wants to add a dependency of modules and cabins that speed up reloading to the burst and discharge speed. So I think he's asking for a new release of a cabin that changes charge up time. I'm not 100% on that. But they're considering it. Nemesis needs buffs. In this case, he wants it to be charged up faster. Nemesis is that stupid plasma ball weapon that you have to not shoot in order to charge up its rapid fire, and then when it's fully charged, you rapidly discharge your rapid fire. And he wants that time cut by half, which is pretty crazy. So the time that you spend not shooting, because you have to wait like 1.5 seconds to get the thing to start charging. He wants it reduced to 0.75 seconds. He wants the Helicon's durability increased, which will drag it out of one-shot build for one-shot durability for, let's say, the commit. Because the commit, remember, was nerfed down, so if the Helicon had 511 durability, which is 20% more than it has right now, with an averter and under proper circumstances, it could even survive a hit from the commit. And he's like, Helicon doesn't do enough, so he wants the heat increased from 33%, which it's not, by the way. The heat is currently, I think, 35% on Helicons, but to 40%. Porcupine, they want more blast damage by 7% and more projectile speeds, etc. And they're considering all of those changes. That's really interesting. So this guy must be rich, and they're like, we hear that you have money because you have a bunch of relics. We will consider these things. This person says, I believe the current frequency of balance changes is a problem. He wants more balance changes, more often, all the fucking time. This is the reason why you guys don't get tier lists from me. It's been like 2 or 3 years since I did a tier list, and it's because of this shit. There's balance changes all the time. I can't poop out a tier list in this economy. And this guy's like, no. They're like, we're not doing that. Getting data, working out the changes, and testing takes time. We're not going to friggin' do that. Thank God. I'll never get a second tier list out at this rate. Weapons being left and forgotten without receiving any buffs. This person is calling out this is a shout out to the D tier. The D tier on a weapons tier list. This guy's shouting out and saying, hey, have you noticed that you guys have never seen any of these guns? And he just lists a gajillion of them. And the devs are like, listen, no, F you. That's basically what they're saying. They're saying we didn't expect all guns to be viable in all power scores. They're saying that things that this person are considering not viable, he probably doesn't see because of the power score brackets that he plays at. But, you know, basically they're saying you're wrong. They're saying you're just wrong, my dude. And I don't think he's wrong. In many of these, though he didn't list a couple of these things, like a couple things that he definitely should have, like the Summoner. Oh no, never mind, it's there. Summoner argument. Yeah, no. Like these are some terrible guns. Like he's listed a ton of terrible guns. And yeah, no, they just don't see play. Like they're worse objectively than other guns that do the same thing at the same power score for less energy and less money. So, I don't know. I think it's because he was too broad in his statement, and so the devs just didn't want to answer it. The Nest and the Trombone plus the Step Spider. This combo makes the missiles too agile. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Look, here's the thing. Does having the Nest and the Trombone on the Step Spider make it so that you can't miss? That's right, you can't miss. That means that they can't get under the missiles and dodge in at you. Yeah, yes, this is true. But is that too powerful? No, these guns suck. The Trombone doesn't necessarily suck, it's good, but to capitalize on it, right, your allies have to be available. And they have to be close in order to make sure that is even a problem. So if they've W keyed in on you, and they're committing on you anyway, right? The situation is that either A, they're winning, or B, they're losing. And either way, that's not that big of a problem. Because either you win more or you lose faster, right? And the Nest sucks. Even now, with the Nest having the ability to hit people, even if it's point blank range, it's still bad. Have you used the Nest? Anyone? No. Exactly. Have you seen the Nest used? Yes. And when you killed that player because you clearly won that engagement, how did you feel? Did you feel as though the nest was a problem when you beat them? No. Have you ever died to a nest? Raise your hand in the chat if you've ever died to a nest. Ever. Like, and I don't mean like, you know, you've been like turned into a nugget and you're a cabin because somebody else like shot your generator out and then someone with a nest was like, ooh, I finally get to have a nest kill. I mean, genuinely lost. Truly lost a 1v1. You're out there with your guns, some dude's driving around with a nest and a step spider, and you engage each other and he wins. Has that ever happened to you? Does that sound like a scenario that has ever motherfucking happened? To anyone? Anywhere? Like, no. The nest is a weapon of opportunity. It's where you stay in the back and you constantly launch missiles over and over again and hope to God that you have an effect on the battle. This isn't necessary. Also, the other thing that you have to understand is the reason why that this shouldn't be considered by the devs is because you're using the Step Spider. The Step Spider cabin is a phenomenal cabin with rockets. It increases rocket projectile speed and the turn radius. Great. But here, and so it makes it so your weapons can hit. Great. You know what you're sacrificing for that? You're not using the Catalina for plus near 50% damage. You're not using the Icebox for a static 20% damage. You're not using any of the other things that increase your damage, right? Step Spider doesn't increase your damage. It just increases the projectile speed and turn rate. Doesn't actually increase the flat damage. So you sacrifice actual damage. You're not using the photon. Right? You're not using the photon trombone, baby. Like right now, you get a plus 30% damage to heated parts. You kidding me? You're not using those things. You're using the Step Spider, which gives you no damage bonus. So I don't think this is a valid complaint. Omamori is now useless. We want it buffed. It's not entirely true. Believe it or not, the Omamori is almost in its current release date. I think it only has. It's almost the exact same. I think it only has 100 energy shield less. And I think that's it. And no, it's pretty good. So the Omamori doesn't really need to actually get buffed, and they're saying no, they're not going to buff it. These people are complaining that the Nox cabin and the when you use the Scorpion is too strong, and they said that they already agreed with that. That's why they nerfed it. You know, this person complained about this before they nerfed it. And so they nerfed it, because it's true. The Scorpion was able to do it's true, but it's false. I think the Scorpion should have been able to do what it has always been designed to do, which is pass through builds and deal damage. But whatever. They made it so it does less so. And by the way, for those of us who don't know, this is a kind of a half bluff, because you can get that level of performance if you have the few Scorpions with the damage rate reduction fusion crap. Yes, you sacrifice damage or reload speed or whatever it is on the fusion, but if you actually have fused Scorpions with the 10% additional pass-through damage crap, and then combine that with the now nerfed Nox, you will still have the exact same amount of penetration that the Nox was originally giving. Moving forward, Waltz needs a buff. So basically, he thinks that it's underperforming. He wants to come up with stuff, and they're like, no, we're not doing that. We're not increasing the damage of the Waltz. So Waltz does incredible damage. And this is true. Waltz damage is very high. Like, it's very high. The perk literally says that the second and third missile deal more damage increasingly. Like, the second missile does, like, plus 25% damage over the first, and the third missile does, like, 50% damage over the first. So all three of your missiles do, effectively, nearly 4 missiles worth of damage. So the Waltz damage is fine, right? The Waltz damage is good. It's good. The problem with the Waltz is that it fires a stupid spinning missile that is impossible to predict. The Unpredicta missile it sucks. The Unpredicta missile is terrible because it spirals. It's based on projectile speed. So if you put on a cabin that lowers your projectile speed, there's one of those? Yeah, there is one of those, and it needs to be. That's something that truly does need to be buffed. 1 second, I sneeze. It's the Dusk. The Dusk cabin got when they changed the Dusk cabin, they nerfed the ass off of that thing. It's terrible right now because they reduced all projectile speed and increases spread. I don't know why they would do that. And homing rockets also had reduced maneuverability and target acquisition range. It's like it was terrible. It was a terrible decision. I think in exchange for 5% damage, they completely gutted the Dusk. The Dusk used to give 20% damage and just reduce the maneuverability and the time to live. So they removed the time to live debuff, and so projectiles will, like rockets launched by the Dusk, will go their full distance, but they move super fucking slow and don't turn at all. So they're really, really garbage, right? And so if you use the Dusk with the Waltz, you can absolutely see and feel how terrible the Waltz is. The missiles spin crazy out of control. They're also unbelievably slow and impossible to hit. It's terrible. But if you use the Waltz with something like the Step Spider, or get Waltz's fused for projectile speed with the Step Spider, then you're going to be in a good spot. Because the idea is that even though the missile spins, the frequency of the rotation does not increase. It's based on time in flight, right? So if a missile is going to fly for 1 second, right, over 1 second it will do, let's just say 1 to 1. In 1 second, the Waltz will spin around 1 time. Let's just say that. Okay? If your projectile velocity is 6 times faster, it means that your projectile is going to strike a target within, let's say, 0.2 seconds. It means that it will barely spin at all by the time it hits your opponent. It will be screaming downfield, doing a very, 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 very long spin. Because the idea is that it still takes 1 second for it to rotate around. If you have a slower projectile, and let's say it takes 5 seconds for your rocket to get to its target, it will spin around in the air 5 times. I know that those are exaggerated numbers, but that's basically just trying to explain how the Waltz works and all that good stuff like that. And so, yeah, no, the popular mechanic is that the weapon makes stupid spinny missiles. Here's the problem, though. If they removed the spin and made the Waltz like just a negative press version of, because it's a charged fire weapon, so a charged fire version of the Helicon, Waltz would be very strong. Extraordinarily strong. Crazy strong. Oof, crazy strong. Moving right along. All machine guns need a buff. And they're like, yeah, we know. After removing hit scan, machine guns receive 2 major buffs. And that sucked. They even admit it. They're like, yeah, it didn't work. Remember what I said when they were doing that stuff? I mean, if you listen to my voice when I'm reading off patch notes, I'm like, that's not enough. They need to return hit scan. I'm like, that's not enough. That's not gonna do shit. Yeah, they admit it. They're like, no, it had no effect. So they tried an uncontroversial solution that previously had positive effects on shotguns. They made the projectile size larger because they want it so you can actually try and hit your opponent. Because right now machine guns are dog shit. Will that work? I don't know. I want to say no. And the reason why I want to say no is because the advantage of machine guns was precision damage, precision continuous damage, PCD, right? And with a weapon velocity weapon, it's extraordinarily difficult to get that. It's very difficult to put repeated shots on a single target, and that's the problem. That's just it. So, I don't know. And also the damage is low. Remember that. So, like, if you are... This is the reason why everyone loves the commit, right? You sling 700 damage down range, you miss, you hit, they lose the game. But if you're using machine guns, you can sling 700 damage down range, let's assume over the course of many shots. They don't all land on the same spot. Some of them miss, some of them hit, some of them hit the gun you're aiming at, most of them don't, yada, yada, yada. And that's the reason why machine guns suck. There's no splash damage. Machine guns are just poor weapon choices right now. And finally, the power score of decorative items is too high. And they're like, you know what, we're going to rehaul the decorative system. I don't need to go into it, but the reason why power score of decorative items is so damn high is because people are using decor armor at one time, and I mean, you still possibly can, kind of, but now they add almost no durability whatsoever, and, you know, they still haven't reverted that power score change, so maybe they'll remove the power score buff. But remember, decor items do perform a function other than blocking, right? Decoration items grant you increased experience gain. I know that to many of us who have long since maxed every single faction, to us, we're like, oh, these decor items need to be cooler. Well, here's the thing. It still provides a benefit to everyone. Leveling up 25% faster should come with a cost, right? And also it makes you look cooler. So the cost is increased power score. So they'll keep that in mind when they rebalance the system, I'm sure. I don't know if we need to necessarily reduce power score on those because, again, you're putting stuff on your build in order to gain benefit, right? Similar to fuel tanks, where you have fuel tanks on your build in order to gain extra, resources. And those extra resources can be turned into coins at a low rate, sure, but they can be turned into coins, and they provide you a benefit. And that's the reason why they have a power score, increase that they do. All right, well, that's it. Hopefully, we'll go over dev comments number 3. Only one obvious plant on this one. But other than that, yeah, what do you guys think? Do we think that the punji sticks need fixing? Yes, they're terrible. Do we think that there's a bunch of unused guns in the games and the devs are just wrong? Yes. There are, like, this guy even calls out the vulture, by the way. I didn't go into reading this guy's entire thing because I didn't want to, because I was trying to get through this in a rapid pace. But yeah, no, this guy brings it up in his thing. He's like, these weapons suck. By the way, have you ever seen a motherfucking vulture? No. Exactly. He's played this game for however long he's played the game, and he's never even seen a vulture, is what he's claiming. So I'm going to go make a vulture build. Hopefully run into that guy. All right, guys. Take it easy. Peace.